Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnana-salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Śrī-gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu-padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Śrīmati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaura-Nityānanda Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasvachate Shikṣā-guru Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Gaura-Gadādhara Śrīvāsari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. Let's do it responsively. Text 1. Bande Guru Nishabhaktan
Bande Guru Nishabhaktan
Isham Ishavatarakam
Isham Ishavatarakam
Tat Prakāśam Satat Shakti
Tat Prakāśam Shakti
Krishna Chaitanya Sangyakam
Krishna Chaitanya Sangyakam.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual masters, the devotees of the Lord's incarnations, His plenary portions, His energies, and the primeval Lord Himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. These begin with a description of how Chaitanya Mahāprabhu manifests personally when he appears, and then through these other different forms, Bande Guru, so as spiritual master. Later on, let's describe spiritual master as of two types, Śikṣā-guru, Dīkṣā-guru. Both of them are, and then they are, of course, on two different levels. Ideally, they are elevated on the transcendental platform, but they may be Madhyamadhikaris in the intermediate position. Vande Guru. Isha Bhakta. Isha means the Lord. Bhakta means devotees. So then there are the devotees. Devotees are also in similar categories. There are those who are Sādhakas and those who are Siddhas. Then Isha, we're talking about the Supreme Lord, Isha-Avatarakam, the avatars or incarnations of the Lord. So we won't get into all the details, but you know that there are different avatars the Lord appears in different incarnations. Tat Prakāśa, and then there are his Prakāśa, his expansions. Lord Nityānanda, Balaram, the expansions of the Lord, and those are also of different types of expansions. Tat Shakti, and then there are the Śaktis. Sometimes Prabhupada calls them the Supreme Lord Prakāśa manifestations and Shakti potencies, or sometimes he calls them the confidential associates. So these are the Shaktis, like Śrīmati Radharani is the Shakti of Lord Krishna, and Krishna Chaitanya Sangatam, and Chaitanya Mahāprabhu himself. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the 6 features of. Then out of these, what he describes later on is that we're invoking auspiciousness through invocation and benedictions. But here now we focus on, and this is the focus of Caitanya-caritāmṛta, and that is Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. Bande Śikṣā. Oh, we didn't even do the translation. Let's do the translation for verse 1. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual masters, until the devotees of the Lord, the Lord's incarnations, His plenary portions, His energies, and the primeval Lord Himself, Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Now, next one. Bande Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Bande Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Nityananda Sahodito,
Nityananda Sahodito,
Gaudīya Pushpavanto,
Gaura-Gadādhara Pushpavanto,
Chitro Sando Tamonudo.
Śikṣā-guru Tamonudo.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
and Lord Nityananda,
and Lord Nityananda,
who are like the sun and moon.
who are like the sun and moon.
They have arisen simultaneously
They have arisen simultaneously
on the horizon of Gaura
on the horizon of Gaura,
to dissipate the darkness of ignorance
to dissipate the darkness of ignorance,
and wonderfully bestow benediction
and wonderfully bestow benediction
upon all.
upon all.
So here, the focus now is on Gaura-Nityānanda. And throughout Caitanya-caritāmṛta, although devotees such as Advaitacharya, or incarnations such as Advaitacharya, Śaktis, as Gadādhara Pandit are also mentioned, different Līlā or pastimes are included. But nonetheless, they are in a role of here Caitanya-caritāmṛta as the Līlā of Lord Chaitanya. But as main worshipable deities of Gauḍīya Vaishnavas, then Gaura-Nityānanda is singled out. So we see that in our temples, we have almost always Gaura-Nityānanda deities. I say almost always because it's not always. Sometimes we have, just like here in Calcutta Temple, Srila Prabhupāda established just Lord Chaitanya. And in other temples there is also just Lord Chaitanya. However, for the most part, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda are there. Why? Because Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda have arisen to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. So from the perspective of spreading Krishna consciousness and facilitating those who are within the realms of ignorance, whether that be material ignorance or spiritual ignorance like impersonalism, Mayavad philosophy, Gaura-Nityānanda are their worshipable deities. Now we do have Gaura-Gadādhara also as being worshipped. However, the worship of Gaura-Gadādhara is generally not in this perspective as preaching, but rather as facilitating Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Līlā. And Gaura-Gadādhara are like Krishna and Rādhā. The mood is somewhat similar because Gadādhara Pandit is the incarnation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of Srimati Radharani's bhava. And then there is also a Gadādhara Das, who's the incarnation of Srimati Radharani's duty, among other things. She's an incarnation of a few different personalities. So, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda are the worshipable deities of preachers. Devotees often naturally want to worship deities. Of course, those devotees who reside in temples, then they have the opportunity there to render service. Those devotees who are living at home, the grihastas. Srila Prabhupada, throughout Caitanya-caritāmṛta, talks about worshipping Gaura-Nityānanda, Rādhā-Kṛṣṇa, Siddhas, and other forms of the Lord in a very general way. And the worship of Śrīlas has also become popular, whether it's Śāligram or Giriraj Śrīlas, sometimes Dwarka Śrīlas. All of these different deities, and of course not to forget Jagannath, Balaram, and Subhadra, all these worship of these deities have very specific requirements. And unless those requirements are met, one runs into the problem of committing offenses. That means that one is committing offenses in the realm of deity worship. Obviously, we don't worship the Lord to also commit offenses at the same time. What are the offenses? That we don't offer to a worship to a proper standard. I've seen, for instance, become very popular to have sort of mid-size or sometimes even large-size Radha-Kṛṣṇa deities in people's homes, and yet they don't offer garlands every day. May not be dressed every day. In fact, sometimes people are dressed on Ekadasis. So that's not Radha-Kṛṣṇa worship. It's just like, you have children. I mean, you don't have children just so that you've got the baby in the house. You have to maintain them, and as soon as you go below the standard, you're abusing the child. So here we have to always remember that the forms of the Lord are the Lord. This is God. And while Krishna is very merciful, and especially in Kali Yuga, he allows us to simplify things to a certain extent, but there are minimum, and when you go below the minimum, then you get the minimum. That's the benefit that you get, or you even get the minus, that which goes below the minimum. But with Gaura-Nityānanda, you're always safe. Why? Because they don't accept any offense. And the only real necessity is to chant Hare Krishna. That is the primary worship of deities, and one assumes that devotees are chanting Hare Krishna, that they're doing japa, at least that, kirtan, even better, in their homes, and that becomes then the real worship, the worship that's required for Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. So much so that Srila Prabhupada wanted us to box little deities of Gaura-Nityānanda and wanted us to sell them on the streets to karmis, to non-devotees, in the way that we, for instance, sell books. And the whole idea was that the box had instructions that every day you put this on some kind of clean place. These are magic dolls. And every day you take one stick of incense and you wave the stick of incense in front of them. Bus. This goes in homes of people who are eating meat, taking intoxicants, doing who knows what, and some of that who knows what may be going right in front of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, but they don't take offense. Just to give you an example of standard, when we joined, whether it was in the temple room, prasadam room, or in the ashram, there were pictures everywhere. We have pictures, obviously. When we took rest in the ashram, we had to cover the pictures. Pictures were covered. You don't lay down in front of the pictures. So that was the standard that Prabhupada gave, but now this was not for, of course, it's three-dimensional, two-dimensional deity, they're all Krishna, and can be equally so. So Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda are so merciful. Parama karuna pahudvijana vitai Gaura-Chandra. So in the association of Lord Nityananda, Chaitanya Mahāprabhu is very much in the consciousness of giving Krishna consciousness to others. And because Lord Nityananda is so overwhelmed with ecstatic love of God, he's like practically in the mood of a drunk. He's a drunk. He's drunk not on liquor, he's intoxicated by love of God, therefore he is in mood of avadhuta, and as such, he makes no discrimination. In his association, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes no discrimination, and therefore they just distribute to everybody. So these are in terms of the worship of deities at home, and even sometimes in temples. Some temples we have only Gaura-Nityānanda. And often when devotees ask, what about worshipping this deity, what about worshipping that deity, we'll say, worship Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. You get everything and anything any other deity can give, but you get it without any risk. How much better can you have it? So they have come to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. So Chitra, Chamatkar, wonderful. So to bestow benediction upon everybody. And this is what's wonderful, is that no matter what, they never take offense. And what do? They give you the clear path towards the service of Radha and Krishna. That's why it's usually Radha-Kṛṣṇa, Gaura-Nityānanda, Radha-Kṛṣṇa, and Jagannath. An exception, Srila Prabhupada sometimes had Krishna and Balaram, as for instance in New Māyāpura and in Vrindavan. But now we're just going to go to the next verse, the third one. And I'll start off from the third one tomorrow also. Responsively. Yadda dvaita brahmopanishadi tadapi asya tanuba. Yadat Atmantaryami Purusha iti so shama vibhava Saraishvarya Purno Yaiha Bhagavan Sasvayamayam Sasvayamayam Na Caitanya Krishna Jagati Paratatvam Paramiha Responsively. What the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body, and the Lord known as the Supersoul is but his localized plenary portion. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna himself, full with six opulences. He is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him. The different manifestations of the absolute truth, whether it's the Sat potency of the Lord, the Sat Chit potency, and then Sat Chit Ananda. So, impersonal Brahman. Impersonal Brahman is the feature of effulgence which manifests Krishna's existential feature. So this non-dual, undifferentiated Brahma, this impersonal Brahman. So, of course, the Upanishads generally focus on presenting the absolute truth as this. It's correct, but it's not all there is. There's more. So, what the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman, this is the effulgence of his body. Now, the Supersoul, who's a manifestation of two aspects of Krishna's not potencies, these are not potencies, Sat, Chit, Ananda, these are actually elements of his existence, his nature. Bodhis, the Supersoul, is but his localized plenary portion. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, of course, when we talk about Brahman, Paramātmā, Bhagavan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is that Bhagavan, and he is Krishna. He's not an incarnation, not an avatar, he's not a potency of Krishna, he's not just what often in India he's considered to be some revolutionary, someone who started a equal rights program for everyone. Of course, in one sense, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did do that, that everyone has the right to the ultimate conclusion of Vedic literature, which is to worship Krishna and to chant Krishna's names, which is the Mahamantra. Mantras are meant to be chanted by Brahmins. Now here the Mahamantra will be chanted by anyone. So 6 with Sad Aishwarya Purna. So he's full with 6 opulences, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him. Lord Nishinadeva is Sadashvarya Purna. Lord Ramachandra is Sadashvarya Purna. But they are all expansions, manifesting and possessing different aspects of the Lord, but they are not the complete manifestation of Krishna's nature, personality, and so on. So no other truth is greater than or equal to him. As in the Gita, Krishna says, Mata parataram na anyat. There is no truth greater than me. So when he says that, and when we have this here about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then it becomes clear that if there's no other truth greater than him, he has to be the same person as Lord Sri Krishna. So, Sadashvarya Purna Bhagavad Sayamidam. He is, in this way, the original Supreme Lord. So we always remember that he's Krishna. Now sometimes we lean in a direction saying that well, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Srimati Radharani. He may adopt the mood of Srimati Radharani, but he's not Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani is a separate personality, a separate form. So he takes the Radha Bhava duty. He takes the mood, and that will come upon in the upcoming verses. What does it mean that when you take the mood of someone, for instance, an actor, so I don't know, some actor takes the role of Hamlet, then you really become absorbed. And while you're on stage, you are playing the role of Hamlet. So Krishna becomes absorbed in the threefold features of Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna. And therefore, because he becomes absorbed, then he plays that role, but he doesn't go off the stage. He's always in that station. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, but he's, like it's stated here in that later verse, then we'll say that Radha Bhavadyuti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam. So don't forget, he's Krishna Swarup, he's Krishna himself. So neither is he any type of expansion or manifestation of Krishna, and neither is he Srimati Radharani, although he acts and talks, especially in Gambhira, he acts and talks just like her, or just like gopis, and that we'll get to a little later. So always being very clear of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And now, when we know that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he takes these roles, then we still recognize that who he is. For instance, he's in the form of a sannyasi. In fact, even some of his associates just think of him as a ordinary human being. That Caitanya-caritāmṛta says that the sister of Raghava Pandit, Damayanti. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Damayanti sent all of the different foodstuffs for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pleasure, but thinking that he was an ordinary man who would get sick if he ate too much, and in Krishna consciousness that tends to be the tendency. So always remember Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's position in regards to other features of Godhead and recognize his particular mood, because in worshiping him we have to be sensitive to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's moods, and that's part of when you interact with some other person, any person, then obviously you have to be sensitive to their mood. You connect with them like that. Okay, we're trying to prepare and get ready. Just by way of interest, did anyone memorize any of these verses? No, but I'm not saying whether you knew them, but did you newly memorize them? Started. Okay, 3 devotees. Very good. No? Good. You're cooking. All right. That's very good. Some devotees. It doesn't take much time. You write it down on, well, what we've called Śloka cards. I don't know what they're actually called originally, these little cardboard or cards, hard paper cards, and you write it down and you just walk around. Anything that you're doing, you just have it in front of you and you just keep repeating it over and over and over again, and it sinks in. And it's good to know also what it means, translation. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Prabhupāda ki jai, Jai Nitai Gaura-Prēmanandi. Thank you so much.